Why do most franchise brands never make it to 20 locations, even if they have a really amazing concept? And why do a small handful explode past 100, 300, even 1,000 locations, while a lot of others just fizzle out? I'm Justin Kaiser, co-founder and CEO of Empire Franchising. I've spent the last 24 years building, scaling, and investing in businesses. I took my own franchise brand from scratch to over 100 franchise territories before an acquisition. I can tell you this with certainty. Most franchise brands don't fail, they plateau. They plateau for very specific, predictable reasons, not because the concept doesn't work, not because the founder isn't capable, but because the system that got them to 10 franchises, 20, 30, is not the same system that's going to get them to 100. And most never make the transition they need to. So let's break this down clearly, because this is where billions of dollars in enterprise value are either created or lost. First, you've got to understand this. Growth in franchising is not linear. It happens in phases, and each phase requires a completely different infrastructure. Phase one is proof of concept. You're selling your first 5 to 10 franchises, usually through hustle, relationships, brokers. This is founder-driven sales, and it's where most brands feel momentum because everything is manual, everything is personal, but then it's fragile. Phase two is early expansion, 10 to 30 franchises. This is where the cracks start to show. Lead flow becomes inconsistent, sales cycles get longer, brokers can become unreliable, and suddenly the founder realizes, we don't actually have a system, we just got deals done. And this is where about 60 to 70% of all brands stall, right here, because they mistake activity for infrastructure. They think that they sold a few deals, they have a scalable model, but they don't. They have proof, but they don't have a machine. And that leads to the first reason that most brands plateau. They don't control their lead generation. They rely on brokers, portals, referrals, third-party ecosystems, which means they don't own the demand, they rent it. And when you don't own the demand, you don't control growth. So what happens is lead flow fluctuates, costs increase, quality drops, and the pipeline becomes unpredictable. Now, layer on the second issue, no real conversion infrastructure. Most brands don't have a true sales system. They have conversations, they have follow-ups, but they don't have structured pipelines. They don't have automation or nurture sequences. They don't have content that educates and builds trust at scale. So even when the leads come in, they leak, they stall, they go somewhere else. And when the founder thinks the problem is the leads, the real problem is conversion. Third is founder dependency. Now, this is the silent killer. If deals only close when the founder is involved, you don't have a business, you have a job. And it doesn't matter how strong your concept is. If it can't be sold without you, it can't scale. So growth slows down because the founder becomes the bottleneck, not the market. The fourth reason is no capital strategy. Scaling from 20 to 100 franchises requires investment. It requires investment in marketing, in systems, in a team, infrastructure. But most founders treat growth like it should fund itself. And that's a mistake, because without capital, you can't build the machine that's required to break through the plateau. And this is where the platform thinking comes in, because the brands that break through don't just operate as a single franchise system. They operate as a platform. They install repeatable systems. They own their lead generation. They build centralized conversion engines. They remove founder dependency, and they leverage capital strategically, not emotionally. They understand that scalability is not about effort, it's about structure. And that leads to a real insight here. The plateau is not a failure point, it's a transition point. It's the moment where the business either evolves into a scalable platform or it stays a small business forever. And most choose the latter, sadly, not consciously, but by default. Because building a platform requires a different level of thinking. You have to think in terms of systems, leverage, ownership, equity, not just revenue, because at the end of the day, the real value is not in selling more franchises. It's in building an asset that compounds, an asset that can scale across multiple brands, multiple markets, multiple revenue streams. This is why investors look at franchising the way they do. They're not investing in one location or even one brand usually. They're investing in a system that can replicate. And when that system is installed correctly, that's when you see exponential growth. That's when the valuations increase. And that's when liquidity events happen. Acquisitions, roll-ups, platform consolidation. And this is exactly what we've been building at Empire Franchising. We're not a consulting firm. We're not a brokerage. We're a platform that installs the full growth engine into brands that are stuck at that plateau. We take brands that have a proven demand, but they lack infrastructure, and we install the systems required to scale. Lead generation, conversion, automation, training, and most importantly, we align through equity. Because we're not interested in short-term fees. We're building long-term value here at Empire Franchising. And that's the shift that most founders need to make. Stop thinking about how to sell the next franchise and start thinking about how to build a system that sells 100, 200, 500 franchises without you. Because that's where the real upside is. And that's where the enterprise value is. That's where the liquidity is. So if you're a founder or an investor and you're looking at a brand that's stuck, understand this, it's not broken. It just hasn't installed the right level of infrastructure yet. And if you can identify that, if you can execute on that, that's where the real opportunity is. So if you want to understand how we build that system, how we break through the plateaus, and how to think like a platform, then go to empirefranchising.com. And if you're serious about building something that actually scales, subscribe to the channel, because this is exactly what we do. We partner with great local businesses and turn them into national franchise empires.